Hello and welcome, my name is Ajaxpost and today I have a very special edition of my Get to Know series for Transport Fever 2 in which I take a look at my highlights of the summer 2021 update. First off, I must say this is a substantial update to the game, covering a whole load of fixes, improvements to gameplay mechanics, to the UI and to mod options as well. But I am only going to be looking at those aspects of this update which particularly I'm interested in, and so that's sort of the gameplay mechanics, the UI, those sort of things. So I've got nothing really to say about mods or mod creation, that's not something I get involved with. So if you're looking for that, then please do go and join the Discord, the Transport Fever 2 Discord, or obviously get engaged on the Steam forums for more on that. I can't unfortunately help you with that. There have been a few performance tweaks as well, I believe, to the game. I will cover those a little bit later, with particularly I will be putting in an example of my experience of the performance changes at the very end of this video, so if you want to go straight to that. And talking of going straight to, I will be creating this video as a sort of fully chaptered video. So if there's any particular aspect of the updates you're interested in or don't want to hear about, then you can just click the sort of chapter links below the video and go directly to the bit that is of interest to you. So the first changes I want to look at are to do with the load and save mechanics of the game, which they've improved very nicely indeed. They've taken feedback from the community and made a number of important changes which I think will affect most of us one way or another. Not all of them, but some of them anyway. So the first thing they've changed is they've now added a borderless window option. So previously you could just choose between full screen and windowed, but now if we look at the changes for this new update, we now have the choice of windowed, borderless or full screen operation. The other thing they've said on this is that the resolution you've selected will stay in place should you decide to switch between any of these three modes. One of the features of the load game process that I kind of missed from Transport Fever 1, and I have a feeling it was actually part of one of the builds of Transport Fever 2, was the inclusion of mod warning indicators on the load game screen. On this latest update we see the return of these little yellow icons which give you some indication of whether it is safe or dangerous to remove any of the mods that you currently have running. This is great if you're in the habit, as I am, of just downloading loads and loads of mods, putting quite a few of them into your game, but obviously they run out of use as the game progresses, so just to hopefully improve performance of your game you might want to take some mods out. This will give you a clue as to which ones are safe to do. They've also said in this regard, to do with selection of mods on the load game screens, is they've improved the mod loading times. I'm not quite sure what that means. I never really had an issue with that, but if you've got thousands of mods installed and enabled, that may well be significant. Also on the mod aspect of game loading, they've said they've fixed the crash that can happen if you have a subscribed mod in your game which isn't actually currently on your local computer. They've also added a couple of new options on the advanced settings page on the load game menu, and they are to do with, I believe, primarily Vulkan graphics, which is the show video memory usage warning. I've not seen any of those, so it's difficult for me to sort of judge how accurate or useful that information is. And also another one which can be useful if you're using a lot of mods, the show missing resources dialogue. Now these are enabled automatically, so if you don't want to see these you can turn them off, but it's probably safer to have them turned on, to be honest, and we'll certainly see the missing resources one in use in a moment. Again, I'm no mod expert. I believe that's mostly to do with textures, paints, that sort of thing, and that may impact on the stability of your save game, so it's something to be aware of. And this is the missing resources message, or one of them anyway. This is what I got on when I loaded my latest game. Again, it doesn't actually seem to affect the gameplay at all, but it may impact the safety, the integrity of my save game going forward. And it gives me some good clues here, either to contact the mod creator and discuss the issue with them, see if there is anything that I need to do or be worried about, or indeed if I can take that mod out of my game entirely and replace it with something else that doesn't give me error messages. Now this is a great change. If you're running a game and you think, oh, actually I don't want to play this game, I want to play something else, so you want to go back to the load game screen. If you do that within an existing game, then that's all you're used to get. What they've done in the summer 2021 update is turned the load game screen into exactly a duplicate of the load game screen you get before you load a game. So you get the full choice of mod selection, of setting everything that you might want to do when you load that game. So it's no longer a poor man's load option. And one final thing just to say on the load and save game options in this new update is they've also added a system within the game to create an emergency save for some types of crashes within Transport Fever 2. They've not elucidated on that, so I can't give you any clues as to what scenarios it might create an emergency save for. Now that we've looked at the key highlights, as I see them anyway, of the load and save processes of this latest update from Transport Fever 2, let's have a look at what it looks like in-game. I'm going to be going through this I'm going to try and organise it in a rational sense. Again, if you're not interested in any particular part or you want to fast forward to some particular part of this review, then I put section headings in the description, so you should be able to just click through into whichever bit most interests you. So we're going to be looking at the new rail and road building mechanics. We're going to be looking at the changes to the line manager and vehicle manager, and then finish off with a quick look at some of the terrain management or the terrain option changes, and a quick look at what I see as a modest performance improvement. First off, let's get into the road and rail building, but before we get into seeing that working, there is one other setting which they've added which could be of interest to a fair few of you. If we go into the settings, if we go into controls, we will see they've changed a few things here. But one of the most important ones, as far as we're concerned for this option, is this new option here, Disable Construction Snapping. So that is now a definable key. So if you want to set a key which best suits you, then just come down here to settings, into controls, and select the key you want to use. But when you look at all the other changes they have made to the construction menus, that really is a very minor point indeed. So let's have a look at building a little bit of a road somewhere. We've got somewhere with some interesting terrain. Oh, this is very interesting indeed. Actually, that looks pretty impossible. But let's try it anyway. The road building menu. First off, this has changed. They have separated out and put new icons in for all the options on here. So you've got the streets, you've got street connections, you've got buildings, which we're familiar with, you've got waypoints and tools, which I'll come to in a moment. Now that is particularly exciting. So if we go into streets here, nothing much has obviously changed here, but you will see when we do, can I do something which will show this off? Let's build a bit of a country road. Let's take you, and let's take you across here. What's this? Where's the bridge option gone? It's now a separate icon. And you can see here it's actually unbundled all the bridges. So I've got a whole series of bridge mods in here, which normally would appear with the style of the bridge, and then you'd have to carefully click to find the actual colour and style that you want to use within that particular model. But here they're all unbundled. So there's the orange one, there's the green one, scroll along a bit more, there's that one and that one. It just means that we're no longer faced with a very small picking point for the bridges we want to create. And that, I think, is a very nice change. It does make this list rather long if you're using one of those mods which has lots and lots of choices, but it does make it easier for me to pick which one I actually want to put into use. And the same thing applies to track. If we go in here, again you can see they've redesigned slightly these choices here for signals, waypoints and so on. But if we just build a bit of a track, again from there to there, again we have the same choice of bridge options. Now something we're used to as being a problem in the old version was ownership of roads. Whenever you upgraded a country road, it would automatically assume that you owned that stretch. and then turning the ownership mode off was a bit of a bind, because you'd have to click on the lock symbol on each stretch of that road. That has changed, and this is such a nice improvement. So if we go into road here, let's upgrade you to a bigger road. And notice here on the settings dialog that comes up here, not just bus lane, no, yes, keep, not just tram track, no, yes, electric, whatever, but also you can decide at this point when you upgrade the road whether you want to own it or not. So let's say, yes, I want to own that stretch of road. Bang, that's done. And we can see that in our typical street overlay. Yep, we now own that stretch of road. So what we can do, we can go into the tools here, and we've got these new icons. Not just add bus lanes to the road, bang, not just add tram tracks to the road, but also one easy move, apply or remove player ownership. So if I do that there, go back into the street overlay, all done. That is so neat and easy. By using the shift key, you can select individual parts of that stretch. So if I just want to change that last stretch here to be public, I can do that by just holding the shift key down, as you would do normally when you're upgrading a stretch of road. One of the very nice changes they've added to the road construction menu is to do with waypoints. Now, I've got a waypoint in use on this particular route. What is it? Oh, it's a fairly old-fashioned looking post box. I don't want to use that anymore. I would prefer that waypoint to be a telephone box. And what I can do with that is I can simply put this new waypoint over the top of the existing one and replace it. So you don't need to delete it, you don't need to upset your line manager, you simply move along and replace it. That is so nice. And would you believe there's a very similar operation for railways? What sort of thing could you possibly want to upgrade on a railway line? You're right, signals. I have here a lovely old-fashioned, and I've gone and forgotten what they're called again. These analog signals. I want to replace that with a proper electronic signal. I don't need to delete it. I can simply find the signal I want it to be. It will be a one-way one in this case. No, it's not actually. And by putting it over there, I need to be fairly careful in some of this is slightly more awkward because I am using a modded version, so it's on slightly the wrong side of the tracks. But there you see, get it in the right place. It gives me the option to replace it immediately. There it is. One semaphore signal, that's what they're called. I do remember eventually. Replaced by a rather natty modern electronic signal. Related to the road and rail construction menu changes, which we saw there, they've also changed the way the modular station construction works. If we go into configure Keynsham here, it's not a massive improvement, but it's consistent, and it's a modest sort of consistency. That's the main thing. With the existing road and rail construction menu, they put these new choices in here. And one of the important things, I don't see this very often, but I try to replicate it and I can't do it, and I can't remember what would happen, but a lot of you will have seen that when you go into adding options to an existing station, it will turn the whole thing red. That should no longer happen. We also have changes to the line and vehicle manager options. A couple of what look like fairly modest changes to the line manager, but one in particular, the one we're about to look at, I think is really neat, and it just helps so much. You may spot the difference immediately, but just in case you don't, I'm going to put up a couple of images which sort of fade into each other, so you can see what the difference is between the existing version, the sort of March Vulkan graphics update, and this latest summer 2021 update. So if we go into line manager, lines, that'll be you there. Okay. So we want to edit this particular line. Right, so at this point, nothing much has changed. We've got into configure our line. Let's go into add a new station to it. It's at this point that things have changed. It's kind of subtle, and I will put up an image fade which will highlight the difference for you, and you may already spot it of course, but the icon for the industry around the line, and also the town name still appears. Previously, when you were going to add a new line or add stations to a line, you're going to click to add stations, and you could do that, but the town name and the industry icons would all disappear. So when you came to name the line, you had to think, hang on, what is that town called? What industry was that I was playing with? You may well, of course, remembered. Ordinary people like me would easily forget that I'm actually looking at a line in Pilning. Just saves a lot of time, that, I think. Really nice little change. Now, the other one I want to look at here. Now, what this change is, it's very simple again, but it just saves confusion. It's a very simple little change. If I go into this to manage the line, on this Ableton lane, stop here, I no longer have the option to change the terminal, so that is entirely disabled. So, I mean, I could have clicked it before and I would have just seen the option, well, 1. There is no other stop to put it on. So, where you've got a single station at a stop, then it will show only that and there'll be no option to change it. Victoria Crescent, bus stops on either side of the road, so I can choose here which one I want it to stop at. And the last of the changes that I want to highlight in the Line Manager segment of this review of the Summer 2021 update is to do with wait times. I've set this up so it loads and unloads particular goods at whichever stop. But what I've not done is set up a wait time. I've not set these to load or wait to be fully loaded at any of these stops. This has changed, and I'll put up an image on the part of the screen as well so you can see the difference more explicitly to what it used to be. But previous to this summer update, if you were to say I want these vehicles to stop until they load, full load of anything, you would then set the wait time here for the whole of the line. They would have to wait 1 minute, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever the choices were. What you can do in this new update is at each individual stop set the maximum stop time. So what that basically means, if it's not something you've actually used in your game, what it means is they will wait for that amount of time for another of that piece of cargo to arrive. So in this case, for example, we might be picking up tools. So I will wait, since the last tool I picked up from the industry, 3 minutes before I pick up another one, and if none arrive in that 3 minutes, I will depart the station and carry on down this route. But what I can do here is I can say you need to stop at this stop to pick up your tools, for example, for a number of seconds, and I can either drag it to whatever time I want it to be, or I can actually type in I want you to wait for 55 seconds. If you don't get another tool to take away within 55 seconds of the previous one, then depart the station and carry on down the road. And the new thing here, entirely new, is a minimum stop time. So what I can do here is I could say wait for, say, 2 minutes, 150 seconds, whatever, or I could type that in, of course, there. You should wait at least 150 minutes, 150 seconds rather, before you depart this particular stop. And once you've started loading, wait 2 minutes 50 seconds. For those people who like to micromanage their routes, then this will be a real nice addition to your gameplay. I think most people would probably call these quality of life changes and updates. Perhaps one of the most significant quality of life updates that's been made in this new build of Transport Fever 2 is to do with Vehicle Manager. We just look at it, we go into buying vehicles. This is a train depot, by the way, to start with. This is so much better, so much more flexible, so much more useful. And I'll put the old one alongside this so you can sort of compare and contrast. But you can see immediately there's more to do here on this, and this applies to whatever you're buying. All these options are available. We have a search that works. We can sort this list by a particular category or characteristic of our vehicles. we can search for cargo types. For example, I want to sort my diesel locomotives, not in age or whatever order they come up in naturally. I want to sort them by speed. Where's the speed? The top speed. And if I click this, that one is our fastest train at the moment, 148 miles an hour. If I turn that round, we get these lovely little beasties which travel at a mere 20. I could do that for running costs. Which is the most expensive to run? Click the sort icon. It's the 47. Okay, so speed isn't the big deal there, so it's obviously a very powerful locomotive. I love that. If we're looking for a cargo wagon or a cargo truck, whatever it might be, here I can simply say, give me all those that carry coal. There they are, all the wagons that carry all cargo, like the NAF is there, or coal. Or perhaps I want something to carry crude oil. And there you are, it gives me all these tanks and container wagons which will take oil. That is so nice, so handy. And the final thing I want to say here on this new selection, and the final improvement I'd like to draw your attention to with regards to the selection criteria here in the Vehicle Manager, is to do with search. Now, I always found the search on Transport Fever 2, the previous version, to be basically rubbish. Again, I'm going to put up a screenshot of what happens when I do this search in the preceding, the Mac Vulkan update version of Transport Fever 2. If I were to search for something as simple as, I want some wagons that will transport oil for me, I know I can do it in the cargo selection here, but look, it actually finds them. British oil tank wagons large. The old version would have simply said, nah, there's nothing there, go away. There's nothing specific in the release notes which mentions this general improvement to the search feature. They have just made comment that they've improved functionality for searching for umlauts, numbers and tokens. But whatever it is, I think it's worked. It's magic. Another little change they've made here in the Vehicle Manager is something which has caused me a little bit of grief every now and then, because I'm using certain types of mods where they have lots of variations on the particular model. So I'm thinking particularly it was passenger wagons here. Yeah, some of these coaches here come in many different variants or liveries. So these, for example, the Mark III coaches come up with 11 variants. Now, again, I'll put up an example of what it used to look like in the older version of Transport Fever. And what would happen is I would see lots of variants here, but this would roll up and obscure most, if not all, of this information about the vehicles. They've tightened this up somewhat so that we're seeing at least basic information about all this, about the model basically we're looking at. So however many variants we have in there, we should be seeing enough information here to make a first guess as to whether that is the vehicle you're after. And I think it should work the same. Oh yes, look, I've got the Olympian. 31 livery variants of this particular bus type. And I can see at the top here all the information I need about that. It's not obscured by the fact it's had to shuffle all this list up into this dialog box. Looking at one of the other aspects of the Vehicle Manager is when you're editing or replacing a vehicle, well, a train in particular, because that is composed usually of multiple vehicles, the loco and the wagons. So if I want to replace this, but what you can do is if you do get this slightly wrong, so if we put that one at the end and get you out the way, put on some more wagons, there we go, a couple more of you. What you can now do is, rather than just inching each asset along the list here, you can hold the shift key down and click left to move it to the front, or click left, or sorry, shift click right to move it to the end. I don't know how often that will be an issue for you. The game does seem to be fairly intelligent and putting the locomotive in the right place to start with, but if you are mixing up your consist and it just happens to go into the wrong place, then that is a nice quick easy way. Just shift click and it's put at the other end of the line, of the consist. It's not a line, it's a consist. While I get onto the next little item I want to highlight, one thing they haven't changed so far is the borrowing and repaying money from the finance tab. you still have to click individually every 500,000. It'd be nice if you could hold that down or shift click it or something, and it would automatically go as far as you could. Save me a little bit of RSI. And the reason I wanted to get all that money, because I wanted to change all these vehicles here, or upgrade them. They do need upgrading, to be honest. One of the things that is mentioned in the release notes is they fix the rendering of vehicles when replaced. I'm honestly not sure what that means. What I'm hoping it means is that the problem we had since the last update, the Vulkan graphics and the Mac update, was that when you were replacing a number of vehicles in the vehicle manager, it could take several seconds. And we're talking 10, 20, 30 seconds before the vehicles in this list were replaced by the selected new consist. So let's try that here and see in real time what that does. That will do nicely. I can replace all of you. Yep, let's see how long this takes. No, I think is a short answer. That is not fixing that particular problem. That might have been a bit quicker. Again, that might be dependent upon the PC configuration of CPU, graphics card, whatever it might be. But yeah, we still appear to have an issue. We've seen in the construction module in particular, the road and rail building and even the station configuration menus, they have changed the categorization of their options. They've done the same thing with the terrain, paint and assets. So if we go into, it looks a bit different here. Basically they've changed the icons on these tabs here, but in paint tools things have been made so much nicer. As you can see here, again, I'll put up an example of what it looks like on the previous version of Transport Fever 2, but you can now select the type of terrain that you want to use. But it just makes it, again, it's so much easier that everything is categorized and named appropriately on this menu. So where that's gravel, that's ground, that's asphalt. So yeah, so it's no longer just going along a huge long list and hoping you spot the colour and the texture that you're after. And they've done the same thing here with the assets as well. I think these are broken up slightly differently, again to be in more distinctive categories. And one thing they said on the release notes about the terrain options was they'd moved the mixed brushes to the front of the menu. I think this is these options here, mixed tree brushes and the mixed rock brushes, as opposed to the individual type of tree or rock. It just makes life a little bit easier and simpler for updating the terrain in your map. And so we come to the last set of highlights that I want to point out in this summer update. One of the problems with doing these sort of things live in-game is you want to show something off and the game resolutely refuses to cooperate with you. But I found it at last. Look, when new buildings are added or when buildings are upgraded, no longer just scaffolding, they now have cranes as well. A simple but nice little touch of realism when it goes up as the building increases. Nice, I like that. A little bit of extra flavour to the game. One of the other little things that is has been added, and I like this a lot. If you're the kind of person who is running lots of freight lines around the map and you're wondering where the heck is all my freight going, because the game will tend to choose where it wants to send it, this may help. If you go into the town information panel now, in addition to all the stats about how well it's growing, all the charts of impressive growth, the destinations for your civilians, we now have a suppliers option. It shows us here which manufacturing or industry plants are actually supplying those goods to this town. Let's find one which is more interesting. Here we are. We have in Tickenham. It's getting both tools and construction materials. One from Weston-super-Mare, which is somewhere south of England, and the other one is Caldicot on the other side of the estuary from Wales. Again, it's just a nice little touch to add to your understanding of exactly what the game is doing with your routes. The next little update to the aesthetics of the game, which I'd like to show you, but I'm having trouble finding a suitable spot, is to do with crossings, where vehicles should now wait for the barriers and not cross them when they're not open, or cross as they're closing. So that should be a more intelligent operation now. Again, another little update they've made to the aesthetics, which I'm going to have real problems attempting to show you, is that pedestrians will apparently no longer cross the road on a red light. So they should always wait now for the signal to be green to go. Note, there are definitely no pedestrians about to cross anywhere I've got traffic lights at the moment. And finally, they have made some improvements to performance in various small ways, I'm sure, but the one that they highlight is that they have improved utilization of CPU cores. It's difficult to know exactly what the problem is on my map as to why it's slowing down or lagging or stuttering. It is a very large map. I am running at approximately 40,000 people. If we go here, yeah, so, well, actually, okay. Nearly 37,000 people on the map as a whole. So I am seeing some reduction in performance as I go through the years, particularly when I'm actually in towns following vehicles and so on. Now, I have seen a small increase in frame rate in this latest update. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a split screen of the old build and this current beta build of the update, which will show that small difference that it makes. When I first recorded this segment on the new build, I couldn't tell at first glance that it was significantly faster or better. But when I run them in comparison, as you're seeing now, then you can see there is actually a difference between the performance of the old build and this current build. And that's it. I think I will leave you with that to enjoy a few moments of split screen action. One final word on this: I am currently recording this a few days before it's due to release officially, which is July the 8th of 2021. So some things may change a little bit before that time, but in general, what you've seen here will appear in the new update build of Transport Fever 2. So thank you so much for joining me for this review of my highlights of this summer 2021 update. If you found it useful or informative, it'd be great to hear from you. A little bit of a like would be great. Just click on the old thumbs up button. Even better though, if you've got any thoughts or questions about this update, then please do drop a note into the comments box below. That would be awesome. And of course, if you've not already subscribed to the channel, you could do that now. And that way you'll know when I upload another one of these perhaps, or indeed any of my Let's Play series. But from me, Ajaxpost, here in Transport Fever 2. Until the next time, bye bye for now.